You do not heal your inner child by becoming the kind of adult the child in you was waiting for. That changes everything. It changes what pain means. It changes what pain means. You have probably heard the phrase so many times that it starts to sound soft and vague. People say it in therapy videos. They say it in self-help quotes. They say it when they are trying to explain a feeling that has no simple name. But the phrase is not about pretending to be young. It is about noticing that some of your strongest reactions were shaped long before you had the words to explain them. What if the part of you that still flinches is not weak, but old? That older feeling can show up in ordinary moments. A delayed reply, a cold tone, a small correction, a raised eyebrow. Suddenly, your body reacts faster than your logic can catch up. You may feel embarrassed, angry, rejected, or panicked, and the feeling seems too large for the situation. Why does a minor moment sometimes land like a major wound? Because the moment is rarely only a moment. What people mean when they say heal your inner child is that you begin to recognize the emotional patterns that were formed when you were too young to control the environment around you. You were not just learning school subjects or manners. You were learning whether people were safe. You were learning whether your needs mattered. You were learning whether being quiet kept the peace, whether being useful earned love, whether being perfect prevented criticism, whether being invisible reduced danger. Those lessons do not disappear just because you grow taller, do they? This is why the phrase points inward rather than backward. It is not nostalgia. It is contact. It is the moment you stop calling every reaction a personality trait and start asking what it protected. The goal is not to blame your childhood for everything. The goal is to understand how your nervous system adapted. And once you understand adaptation, you stop mistaking survival for identity. That shift matters more than many people realize. Researchers have spent decades showing that early stress leaves traces in later life. The Adverse Childhood Experiences study, led by Vincent Felitti and Robert Anda, found strong links between childhood adversity and later health and emotional outcomes. That does not mean your past wrote your destiny in stone. It does mean the body remembers more than your calendar does. Stress does not stay neatly in the year it happened. It often becomes a pattern of expectation, a habit of guarding, a reflex of bracing. Have you ever noticed how your body can prepare for disappointment before your mind has even caught the news? That is one reason healing feels confusing. People expect healing to feel like positivity. It often does not. It can feel like grief. It can feel like anger. It can feel like you are finally hearing the echo of things you once had to silence to keep going. And that echo can be hard to trust, because it arrives with old intensity. But intensity is not immaturity. It is unfinished information. It is a younger part of you asking to be seen without being dismissed. What happens when you stop calling that reaction dramatic? You begin to listen differently. The inner child is not a literal child living in your chest. It is a way of naming the parts of you that still carry early emotional learning. It is the part that still wants reassurance after criticism, the part that still fears being left out, the part that still expects love to be conditional, the part that still tries to be perfect so nobody gets upset. When people speak about healing that part, they mean learning to meet those old fears with current adult care instead of old survival habits. That sounds simple. It is not simple, but it is possible. Healing starts when you stop arguing with your own reaction long enough to understand it. Suppose you feel crushed by a small bit of feedback. The old version of you may instantly say, "This means I am failing." The healing version of you asks, When did I first learn that mistakes made me unsafe? Suppose someone sets a boundary and you feel abandoned. The old version may say, "They do not care about me." The healing version asks, "What does this feeling remind me of?" Suppose you are praised and immediately distrust it. The old version may say, "They are probably being polite." The healing version asks, "Why does receiving kindness feel unfamiliar?" Have you noticed how the question changes the whole experience? That is the work. It is not glamorous. It is repetitive. It is quiet. You notice, you pause, you name, you soften. You offer yourself something more accurate than the old story. This is how the inner child gets healed in practice. Not by forcing a breakthrough, not by collecting perfect insights, but by creating new emotional experiences that contradict the old wound. If you were once ignored when you were upset, you learn to take your own upset seriously. If you were once shamed for crying, you learn that tears are information, not failure. If you were once only praised for being easy, you learn that your needs do not make you difficult. What would change if you believed that now? A lot, probably.
John Bowlby's attachment research helps explain why this matters so deeply. His work showed that early bonds shape how people expect closeness, safety, and separation later in life. In simpler terms, the first relationships teach the nervous system what love feels like. If love once felt inconsistent, your body may still tense up around inconsistency. If love once required performance, your body may still equate worth with usefulness. If love once disappeared when you were upset, your body may still hide distress to avoid being left. Healing the inner child means noticing those expectations without obeying them automatically. Can you see how much of adulthood is still a conversation with childhood?
That is why the phrase can sound emotional, even spiritual, even therapeutic. It is all three, but at its core, it is deeply practical. You are retraining the relationship between your present self and your old fear. You are saying to the part of you that panicked before, you do not have to do this alone anymore. You are saying to the part that kept shrinking, you are allowed to take up space. You are saying to the part that expected rejection, not every silence is abandonment. You are saying to the part that learned to earn love, you were never meant to bargain for basic care. What if healing is simply the first time someone inside you hears the truth? And yet, healing is not about erasing the child. The child is not the enemy. The child is the record. The child is the evidence of what you needed. The child is the one who still wants to be comforted, not judged. So healing does not mean silencing that part of you. It means integrating it. It means letting the younger needs exist without letting them run the whole house. It means giving tenderness a structure. It means building a present where old fear does not have to act like a prophecy. That is a quieter form of strength. It is not loud. It is steady. You may also notice that healing changes your relationships. When you understand your inner child, you stop demanding that other people repair wounds they did not create. You become less likely to confuse intensity with intimacy. You become more able to tolerate honest feedback because it no longer feels like a total collapse of your value. You become more able to set boundaries because saying no longer feels like destroying love. You become more able to receive care without immediately bracing for the catch. That is not because life suddenly gets easy. It is because you no longer hand every old alarm to the present moment. Wouldn't that change the shape of your days? It would. It does. Some days, the old pattern still wins. Some days, the younger fear is louder than the wiser part of you. That does not mean you failed. It means the wound was real. It means the pattern is deep. It means you are learning something that was never taught to you early enough. Healing is not a single revelation. It is a repeated act of staying. You stay with the feeling. You stay with the truth. You stay with the part of you that was once alone and now does not have to be. What if that is what being safe actually feels like? Then, heal your inner child stops sounding like a slogan. It becomes a description of a lifelong repair. It means you learn to recognize the old fear without becoming it. It means you learn to answer the younger hurt with patience instead of punishment. It means you become the steady presence you once needed and did not always get. You do not heal your inner child by becoming childish again. You heal by becoming the kind of adult the child in you was waiting for.